Welcome to the Adapted Ambitions podcast. Here we rewrite the rules of success for professional women over 40. This is the place where experience meets reinvention and where we tackle bold career moves, inspiring pivots, and strategies to help you create a career and life that you truly love. My name is Ada Offonry. I am a talent leader and career coach with years of experience partnering with professionals at pivotal career crossroads. I've seen it all, from climbing the corporate ladder to leaping off it entirely, and I'm here to help you figure out your next big move. Because let's be honest, the so-called career rules we grew up with, they're really outdated. Your experience isn't just valuable, it's actually your superpower. So I'll show you exactly how to use the superpower to create your best chapter yet. Whether you're thinking about a career change, launching your own business, or you just want more purpose and balance in your work, you're in the right place. Welcome to Adapted Ambitions. Let's dive in. Hello, welcome to today's podcast. I am going to be sharing 5 career and life lessons that I've worked after 2 decades in the workplace. I thought it was important to do this episode because some of the lessons I've learned are relevant regardless of what industry you find yourself in, and actually regardless of what stage of your career you're in, whether you're at the early part of your career, mid-career, or at the later stages of your career. And there's so many more lessons that I could absolutely share, and I hope to on later episodes, but I thought having a point of reflection at this point was important. So lesson number 1 is to have an independent vision for your career and your life. And when I say that, I mean a vision that is independent of your job, of your career, of your company, and really focuses on the sort of life you want to lead, the sort of work you want to do, who you want to help in doing your job. This requires a lot of introspection, and this requires self-knowledge. It's not something that you're necessarily going to find externally, although doing some research will definitely help inform some of the ideas that you come up with about what you want to do. But this relies on self-knowledge. A lot of people who are found quite introspective about this and have a clear vision for their career and their lives often find that what currently exists doesn't suit them in totality. And they find that they often have to pick bits from maybe a corporate job, a side gig, a bunch of different things to be able to find what's ideal. For people who don't undertake that level of introspection, these are the people who often find themselves most frustrated. If your sort of idea of success, for example, if you're a lawyer and your idea of success is contingent on where lawyers should be in year 3, where lawyers should be in their career by year 5 and year 10, then you're more likely to be frustrated than the average person, because you constantly be comparing yourself to other people and you'll constantly be trying to sort of meet these arbitrary expectations, and you won't have a chance to really dive deeper and really pursue what makes sense to you. So it's really important that you kind of have that vision. What it does protect you from is it ensures you're not climbing up the wrong ladder, because if you have an independent vision for your life, for example, and one of your values is about flexibility and freedom and variety, and you find yourself in a really restrictive role or in a really restrictive company or career that requires you to work really long hours, then that's your cue, right? That you might be climbing up the wrong ladder, and it's an opportunity for you to reconsider and kind of figure out what you might want to do next. Being this introspective ensures that you can course correct faster, and you don't find yourself in a situation where you commit 10 or 20 years to a career only to sort of realize at some point that this is actually not something you want to do. So number 1, have an independent vision for your career and for your life. Be clear about how much money you might want to make, where you might want to live, whether or not you want to travel, whether or not you want to go into an office or work from home. If you want to be the one that does the school pickups and school drop-offs. You might have individual aspirations to set up a business versus working for other people. Ensure that you are taking the time to be introspective and to be really clear about what you might want to do in your life as a whole. The second lesson I've learned is that you've really got to invest in yourself. Early on in my career, I made the mistake of expecting my boss or employers to be responsible for my personal development. And you could argue that they definitely have some kind of responsibility, but ultimately you cannot outsource your power when it comes to personal development. You have to take ownership for that and be in control for that. And I mean this both in terms of formal and informal personal development. When I think about formal personal development, for me, I'm referring to things like courses, maybe further education, etc. Informal personal development, it could include things like books, podcasts, articles, etc. I would definitely say to undertake both formal and informal personal development, both from a technical standpoint, right? Technical as it relates to your job, but also in terms of your soft skills, right? Now, I often find people say things to me like, I'm the best person technically at doing my job. How come I'm not getting promoted? Well, there are a multitude of factors that could contribute to you not being promoted. So I don't want to diminish those at all. But part of what it might be is that you haven't really focused on developing your soft skills. You might not be as self-aware. You might be doing things that have a detrimental impact on how you're perceived. So when you think about your personal development, you want to think about it from both a technical as well as from a soft skills perspective. The other aspect that people often don't speak about often when it comes to personal development is how you can do that in community with others. There are a number of different organizations that exist, and the one that comes to mind at the moment is the Albright in London, and I know that there are a plethora of these across the globe. What you want to do ideally is you want to put yourself in a position where you can have peer-to-peer mentorship. You have a lot to offer other people. There's a lot that you do brilliantly, and there's a lot that you could also learn from other people. And it allows you to sort of pick from different people, learn from other people, understand a little bit more about the sort of broad landscape that you're part of, and really add that to your arsenal of tools. So again, when it comes to investing in yourself and ensuring that you put yourself in the best possible position for the future, you want to be sure that you're doing all of these things. Another thing that I'm a really big fan of is a concept of designing your own personal board of directors. Now, why do I see this as an investment in yourself? There's an African adage that says, I think if you want to go far, go alone. If you want to go further, go with others. It is difficult to be able to progress by yourself. Having a board of directors is actually a really important source of self-investment. I think a personal board of directors should include, one, mentors, people who have done the thing that you're doing before and can guide you. Sometimes these could be your manager, sometimes it might not be, depending on your relationship with your manager, but mentors are an important part of the personal board of directors. Then peers, so someone around you who's doing really well, who you can relate to really well, is also a good member of your personal board of directors. Someone a few years ahead of you, or somebody who's in your dream job, should also be part of your personal board of directors. I think it's also important to have someone from a different industry. So what you want is a completely brand new, different perspective that juxtaposes the information you already have about your industry. If possible, I think a personal board of directors should also have sponsors. So people who are in rooms that you don't yet have access to and can advocate for you on your behalf. A personal board of directors should also have, ideally, someone who shares your demographic makeup. So if you're a woman, you might want to ensure that you have at least another woman as your personal board of directors. If you're a Black person or of other ethnicity, you might want to ensure that you have somebody from your race on your personal board of directors. This is important because due to relatability, right? You want somebody who can understand some of the stuff that you're going through or experiencing or trying to describe without you necessarily always having the words. So I think at the very least, wherever in your career, you need mentors, peers, someone a few years ahead of you, someone from another industry, sponsors, someone who shares your demographic makeup. Now, I think that if you're a mid-career professional or you're a leader, there are a few additional people that should be part of your personal board of directors. I think this is true for anybody, but especially if you're at this stage of life. I think it's important to have financial experts, right? So helping you really be clear on what your financial goals are and what you need to do to hit them. A lot of people will have to work past retirement age. Buying properties are, in most countries, well, not most countries, but at least in the Western world, can be quite challenging. A lot of people have been priced out of, central areas in the main cities that they live in. And so you want to be sure that you have a very clear financial plan for yourself. Wellness experts should also be part of your board. So, some people can afford a personal trainer. Some people might not be able to. You might be part of a gym, whatever, it doesn't matter. And it might be someone you sort of follow on social media. That's okay too. Then if you're somebody who is in an executive role, having a stylist, somebody who can really sort of help you in terms of how you show up, really important. This next one, I'm a huge advocate of, and it'll be no surprise to you. I think coaches and therapists should absolutely be on your board. Now, therapists, because they help you deal with your past trauma, right? They help you sort of analyze and all the previous baggage that you come with. And this is really important because all of that baggage, whether consciously or subconsciously, impacts how you show up on a day-to-day basis. It impacts how you view the world. It impacts how you view your role within the world. And for you to be able to show up in the best way possible, you need to have the time and the space to process your past, right? All of the things that led to you being where you are today. Now, I recognize that not everybody can afford this, right? So there are some, a number of free resources that you can access. There's some books or YouTube videos or things like that, and proceed with caution, right? Because in no way am I advocating that you listen to what everybody says and go down that route. Obviously, in an ideal situation, if you have access to a licensed therapist, then that's ideal. I'm also a big advocate for coaching. No surprise there. I'm a coach myself. I think the value of coaches is that they help you really be forward thinking. They help you think about the future versus, say, therapists who focus on helping you deal with the past and how your past could be influencing how you show up today. I think part of the power of coaching is that you're able to sit in a room with someone, either physically or via Zoom, and you make space for yourself to really kind of work through some of the things that you're going through and where you want to be in future. The key here is that the coach has your best interest at heart, but doesn't really have a stake in the outcome. Right? And the difference here is that if you're dealing with a spouse or you're dealing with a sibling or a parent, they have a personal stake in the outcome, and they typically have very strong views about whether you should do A, B, C, or D. A coach is indifferent about whether you do A, B, C, or D. They care that you're happy about which of the options you choose to take. So that's the difference here. And then obviously family and friends, but not everybody's blessed with amazing families or friends who you can really sort of discuss some of your, aspirations with. And so, however, if you have some type of a combination of all of these people, then what you'll find is that you're able to broaden your context, you're able to garner more perspective. Ultimately, the decision of what you do with yourself and your career rests on you, right? But at least you're able to hear from people who understand more about your strengths, understand areas that you might need to work on, really kind of care about a positive outcome for you, have your best interest at heart, and can really kind of cheer you on as you navigate the rest of your career and the rest of your life. So we've covered two things already. We've looked at one, having an independent vision for your life and career. And the second thing is investing in yourself formally, informally, as well as via community, and having a personal board of directors. The third lesson I've learned over my many years in the workplace is that it's really important that you really make the time to learn how to manage money. This is really important. So when I speak to people and they tell me that they feel stuck in their careers, they don't feel that they can make a move, a lot of what is holding them back is actually financial, right? So they don't know that if they pivot, they'll be able to generate the same level of income and therefore afford the same lifestyle that they've become accustomed to. And so they feel imprisoned because, the job that you're in is allowing you to do all these amazing things, take vacations, etc. However, it's not fulfilling you. You have the Sunday scaries when you start thinking about work. Personal financial management, really important skill. Learning about pensions, about savings, about various investment vehicles. Being very, very aware of lifestyle creep. The worst thing you can do is that every time you have an increase in your salary, your lifestyle increases to match that. Ideally, you want to be living below your means, and you want to be really smart and intelligent about how you manage your finances, because ultimately, if the quicker you can get to financial independence, the more ability you'll be able to have to do what you like. And I read somewhere that part of what makes people happy is having a sense of freedom, having a sense of autonomy about what they do with themselves on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of what contributes to that is not worrying about money, right? The next lesson I've learned is about managing your energy towards work. Now, what do I mean by that? At the early part of my career, I thought the best way to progress and the best way to be recognized at work is to be the hardest working person. Now, that is a lie. That is a real lie. Working hard is important. I think it's important because for some people, that's a source of pride for them. If they're going to do something, they want to do it really well. So I really understand that. However, working smart and working strategically is far more important than working hard. It's a trifecta, right? You need all of those things. However, working strategically is as important, if not more important, than working hard. So there are a few things that go into this. One is, every industry, every job type, every company has rules at play. And your job as a professional is to really understand what rules are at play within your job, your industry, your organization. And then you've got to decide whether or not you want to get on the court and play. Right? What I see when people are frustrated about not progressing, not getting the salary they feel they deserve, about being undermined by peers and their bosses, etc. The unspoken thing there is often that people don't quite understand the rules at play. Therefore, they're operating from a completely different script to the one that everybody is singing from. And if you don't know, if you're listening to this and you're saying to yourself, what is she talking about? What rules are at play in my company or my industry? I hate office politics. I hate having to sort of indulge in all of these things. Whether or not you choose to play office politics is besides the question. The fact of the matter is that the game is being played, right? There are a few things I'd say to develop that knowledge. I want you to think about the person around you who is considered the most successful. Right? It could be a peer, it could be someone who's more junior to you or someone more senior to you. Based on your relationship with that person, or assuming you have a good relationship with that person, have a conversation, have an informal conversation with them and just understand their mindset and their approach to their job, what they feel makes them successful, the key things that they do to make them successful and the key things that they don't do because they feel that that would be a detriment to their career. Then, in addition to speaking to the most successful person around you, speak to your boss, depending on your relationship, if you can. And also, if you're able to, speak to someone 1 to 3 levels above your boss in terms of seniority. You could also add someone from a different department in the same organization. What you're going to find is that you're going to spot themes in what they say. So it might be that you work in an organization that really promotes noisy performers. So people who are very vocal about what they're doing, how they're doing it, who they're doing it with, how it benefits the customer, how it benefits the organization, etc. And if you find that, for example, being a vocal performer is what has helped people progress in the organization, that's one of the rules at play. And so you now have to decide whether you want to play the game and be more vocal about your performance and ensuring that the relevant people, the right people, know what you're doing, how you're doing it, who you're doing it with and for, or you choose not to play the game. But just understand that the trade-off here is that should you choose not to play the game, you probably aren't going to progress as quickly or as high as you want to. You probably aren't going to get as high a bonus as you feel you deserve, etc. And there are many more things to learn if you choose to undertake this exercise, right? But the key thing here is you want to be clear about the rules at play within your organization, within your job, within your industry. If you find a number of rules, you might decide that you don't want to play by all the rules, but you're going to play by some of them. But in order for you to progress, you likely have to play by the rules in your industry. The last lesson I've learned about the workplace is that your personal brand matters. When I say this to some of my friends, they roll their eyes because they're like, what do you mean? Does it mean I have to, be on LinkedIn or Instagram, making videos, writing content, that kind of stuff that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people roll their eyes about. When I think about personal branding, I think about one, what are you known for? And two, who knows about you? And I think that's the way to really think about personal branding. Now, if you have absolutely zero interest in leaving your organization for the foreseeable future, your personal brand outside of your organization doesn't matter. What matters is your personal brand within your organization. If you're somebody who thinks, okay, I'm doing well at work, but I might want to move on to something else in future, then your personal brand outside of your organization needs to be something that becomes a priority for you to build up. And yes, admittedly, in this day and age, one of the best ways in which you can build a personal brand is on social media. If you're a corporate professional, LinkedIn, right? And LinkedIn has become a bit of a minefield, but I'll save that for another day. But there are things you can do, steps you can take to engage more on LinkedIn to ensure that your visibility increases. Now, the question people often ask me is, why do I need to bother with that? I'm a busy person. I've got family, I've got hobbies. I've got a really demanding job. I don't have time to be faffing about on LinkedIn. The thing about not engaging in building a personal brand is this. If you aren't intentional and proactive about building one for you, your personal brand will be created in the absence of your intentionality, right? Because you're then reliant on others plug in the gaps. The second thing is, a lot of people have been able to propel their careers and their lives based on opportunities that found them, not based on the opportunities they found. You have a finite number of hours in the day, know a finite number of people, and have a finite number of resources available to you. But there's a lot that you don't know exists out there. And by building an external personal brand, and I mean external to your organization, what you give yourself the opportunity to do is to increase your visibility and therefore increase the chances of opportunities that you had no idea existed coming your way. And these opportunities won't always appear when you're good and ready, right? So oftentimes people say, you know what, for the next 5 years, I want to just focus on my job. And then when I'm ready, I'll come out there. That might work for some people. For many people, that's not the case. These opportunities might show up in year 1, they might show up in year 4. And so you just always want to be on the ready, right? For when these opportunities do show up. And so social media has to be an important part of your personal branding strategy, but it goes beyond that, right? So industry organizations, if you're in compliance, I'm sure there are compliance organizations out there, I haven't checked, but what are you doing to understand what's happening in the industry and to add your 2 cents to what's happening in your industry? So being known in industry organizations is important. You can do that from a technical perspective. So for example, if you're a software engineer in financial services, you might be part of organizations for software engineers in financial services. And if you're a woman, you might also be part of Women in Technology. So it's really sort of using who you are, what your current interests are, what your past experiences and what your future interests might be, being strategic about the industry groups that you join to be able to advance, your agenda. But also thought leadership. If you're somebody who has very kind of distinct thoughts about your industry. Perhaps you feel that the way that things are going isn't the right way. Perhaps you feel that adoption of newer technologies like AI, for example, isn't being done. This is an opportunity to really be at the frontier, right, of the evolution in your industry. I reflect back and I think when I started to do some personal branding work on LinkedIn, and I don't think I thought about it as personal branding, I was just sort of trying to advocate for more women in technology, in the industry that I'm part of. And it brought me to the attention of a number of people in the industry in a way that I probably wouldn't have gone after those opportunities. I wouldn't have sought those opportunities out myself. To put it all together, 5 career lessons. 1, have a clear independent vision. 2, invest in yourself. Invest in yourself holistically. 3, really learn about money management. This is the thing that will help you build financial independence early. It is the thing that will ensure that you have the freedom and flexibility to do what you actually want and ensure that you don't feel caged by your job and lifestyle. Number 4, manage your energy towards work. Be clear about what the rules of the game are that are being played in your job, in your company, in your industry, and then decide what you want to do about it. But if you're going to play, really play. And finally, invest in your personal branding. It's about who knows what you've done and you're capable of, and it's also about what you're known for, right? So really kind of focus on making those things happen. So I hope that's helped. These are some of my reflections. I would be so interested in finding out if any of these have resonated with you, and also if you have additional lessons that you've learned that you feel I haven't necessarily covered. If you're somebody who's listening to this and you're thinking, oh, some of these sound really interesting, what I'll say to you is, what areas of the 5 areas I've mentioned, what areas do you feel you've covered in a really strong way? And what areas do you feel need improvement? And of those areas that need improvement, pick one, right? Pick one area as an area of focus for you over the next few months. And then think about one thing you can do specifically to advance your agenda in the one area that you feel could improve. So I hope that's helped. As always, connect with me. My handles on LinkedIn and Instagram, etc. at Ada Offonry. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for listening.